Welcome to On Air with Kate Butler, where we are revealing life's best kept secrets. Welcome back to On Air with Kate Butler as we dig into revealing life's best kept secrets. Today, I have a treat for all of you. This incredible soul came into my life just a few months ago. And in our first conversation, I think it was scheduled for like 45 minutes and we spoke at least double that. Same with our second conversation and so on. And we were just totally, talking and chilling back here behind the scenes. And I eventually was like, oh, we got to get on air. We got to get on air and share all of this goodness with everyone, because whenever we start talking, it's like, we just don't want it to stop. And I want to invite you into this world today as well, as I formally introduce our amazing, amazing guest today, Taja V. Simpson, actor, author, motivational speaker, and truly women empowerment phenomenon. Wait until you hear this woman's story. You will be blown away just as I was. So we are going to dive right in. First of all, welcome to On Air. Welcome.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. I'm really excited. I was really looking forward to this particular podcast interview because it's with the one and only the Kate Butler. So I'm really excited.
We are so thrilled to have you here today. So first of all, I know a little bit about you and your background and kind of what you do in the world right now, but we're going to dig into it as we go through today's podcast. But can you just give us a benchmark as to a little bit about who you are and what you're up to, so that as we start to dig into your stories, people can really start to piece together like the story that you're telling us of where you started and really kind of understanding to the place where you are at now in your life. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're up to in the world?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm originally from Lake Charles, Louisiana, a little small town with like 80,000 people, which we were considered the big town. So that was a lot. Born and raised there, went to junior high school, college, like the whole thing. And when I was a kid, I really wanted, I was into acting. I always played make-believe with my cousins and friends and things like that. That was one of our favorite pastimes, if you will. But during that time, there was nothing to really cultivate that skill set. So it wasn't until I went to school, went to college, graduated in mass communication that after I graduated, I moved to Houston, Texas, which was like the next bigger city from where I'm from. And I got into acting classes. From there, I was bit by the bug. I did that for about 2 years. And then I finally moved to Los Angeles and I've been here ever since. And now I'm a series regular on a hit television show on BET. It's called Tyler Perry's The Oval. And it's the #1 show on Tuesday nights with regular cable and just regular television. Like, that's how popular the show is. So it's very interesting for me when I sit back and look at my life, because I used to play make-believe as a kid and now I do it for a living.
There's so many parallels. I felt like I knew your entire story coming onto this, but every time we speak, it's like another layer of the onion being peeled back. And so how funny. So I also majored in mass comm in college as well.
Oh, wow.
And it's funny because I always say that when I started publishing books, I got bitten by the book bug, right? And you got bitten by the acting bug. So I just love it. I love it. So many parallels. So Taja, can you share with us, have you had a game-changing moment in your life? And can you walk us through what that looked like for you?
Yes, absolutely. The biggest game-changing moment in my life was when I learned my words are my wands. Your words are your wands. Now, it took me what felt like a lifetime to get there, to learn that. However, once I realized I was, at the time, I had just gotten out of a broken engagement. And I was devastated. I was depressed. I was in a really, really dark space at that time. And I just remember sitting on the floor and I was on the phone with one of my friends and I was like, man, I have to do something different. Like, I couldn't believe I was in this space. I was like, how did I not see this? Like, is my picker off? How did I even pick this guy? Like, what, we go through all these different things in our head as we try to dissect that portion of our life, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. That's the exact definition of insanity. So let me figure out what I need to do. And so she was telling me about this book by Florence Scovel Shinn called The Wisdom of Florence Scovel Shinn, where it's 4 books in one. Her most popular book is called The Game of Life, The Power of the Spoken Word, and then Your Words Are Your Wands. And as she's saying this to me, I'm willing to try whatever, read anything. Like, okay, I wasn't even into the personal development world in a sense. But as I was introduced to this book, and as I read this book, Kate, it changed my life. I realized that's when I learned more about the law of attraction. That's when I learned more about your words are your wands. What you speak, like you have to speak life over your life. What you speak out comes to you, good, bad, or indifferent. I learned more about intention. I learned more about so many different things that I just wasn't really privy to. And it opened up my brain to like this whole new world. You know, it was like, wow, I saw the world so differently because now I realize I have the power. And it all comes from the belief, the intention, everything that you put behind it. So then I had to put it into a practical way. I needed to learn what to do. Like, how do I do this in my life? Like I'm reading the book and I'm like, yeah, this is great, but how do I apply this to my life? You know? And so I started with affirmations. I started with changing my mindset. I started with changing how I spoke. My vernacular was completely different. I mean, I use this example. I say it was like being in AA when you're going to these different group meetings and you're around, you feel safe in that. But when you come out of that, you're around your friends who still smoke and drink and do the things you used to do. And you're like, oh, I can't be around this right now. I'm not strong enough. Right. So I feel like I had to put myself in like an AA and I had to surround myself with exclusively with like-minded people so that I could build up myself, build up the armor. So if I came back out and was around certain people and however they would speak, I wasn't taking that energy on. At that point, I was so vulnerable to all of it that I was like, I have to learn to be strong in this area of my life. Now that I am, it's when I think about it and people say, what was the moment that changed your life? I read a book. I read a book. Yep. And I applied that book to my life. It's all about the application. And in that application, that's what changed me for the better. And that was my game-changing moment in my life.
Wow. First of all, I want to go back and take notes when I go back and watch or listen to this, because what you just shared with us really kind of in the first few minutes, there are just so many actual game changers in what you just shared. And so when I look at this, the words become your wands, right? The words are your wands. Words are, first of all, the whole moment of you interacting, the universe opening up to you, you accepting in that miracle moment of reading these books, right? It's what I call like a soul shiver moment, like truth bumps or goosebumps, or, you know, people call them different things. For me, it's like your whole soul gets like a little shiver and you're like, oh, okay, I can't ever unknow that, right? So here you are with this soul shivering moment, this miracle moment that opens up for you. You accept it, right? You read these books, and then because you're open to receiving in that moment, the awarenesses are truly becoming game changing for you. But then what you said to us, which is cannot be missed, right? It cannot be missed, is that it wasn't just about receiving the information. It was also about applying the information. And then you also took it a step further for us that says, I also had to practice and become, right? Like people say, you know, why do you continue to work with that same mentor? And I will say, you know, well, because I don't want to practice what my mentors teach me. I want to master what my mentors teach me, right? Or master whatever that is in life that I am really trying to be the expert in. And so you had to master it, right? Before you could really go out into the real world, if you will.
Into the real world.
So I would love to dig into this a little bit, because words, language, right? Like, first of all, it all starts with our thoughts, and then our thoughts become our words and what we say, right? So already it's like to the second power by the time it comes out of our mouth. And then by the time we write it down, now it's to the third power. And that's why it's so important to write down your intentions and your goals, right? So we can supercharge it. But I would love to understand how that changed for you, because it's good to say, oh, like, okay, speak over your life, like speak into existence what you want. But what does that look like? So what were you saying before? And what did you start saying that really shifted things for you?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that I realized, I was speaking very negatively. like the industry I'm an actor and I'm on television, right? So in the field that I'm in, a lot of the common lingo will be, oh, we're only casting for star names only. Where if you're not a star name, then they don't even want to see you in the room.
Mm.
Or well, you have to have these, you won't be able to get in if you don't have series regular credits. Or if you haven't done a big movie, that's not going to happen, right? So because that's just the common lingo in what I'm around, my environment, then I took that on too. Oh, I'm never going to get that role. Like I'm not a star name. Wow. I'm not a name. I don't have a name. I don't have a name. I don't have a name. And see, the subconscious mind doesn't understand context in that way. They don't understand.
Yeah.
Subconscious mind doesn't understand jokes and sarcasm and things like that. What it understands is the exact verbiage of I don't have a name, right? And what that means and what I'm saying is I'm less than, I'm no one, I'm not enough. All of that is behind me saying this normal common lingo of I don't have a name. I'm not a star name. Oh, I can't book that because I don't have these type of credits. And that was very negative speech that I'm literally speaking over my life. Or if there's something that I didn't do or couldn't do or didn't know how to do, I can't do that. Well, I don't do that. Well, that's not my thing. I'm not into that. But this is just who I am. This is how I've been. That type of lingo is what I used to say. Instead, I had to shift the energy around that. And if it's something that I'm not great at yet, there's something that I haven't tried yet. Now I just say, well, that's an area of growth for me.
Absolutely.
And that energy around an area of growth for me, it just, even if you're sitting in your car listening to this moment right now, you're like, wow, yeah, that feels different, right? The energy around it feels different. And so once I realized the power of the words, we know words have power, but I didn't realize how even my own words were tearing me down subconsciously, right? Mm-hmm. So then as this is happening, and I'm feeling different. I feel the shift in me. I feel the energy shift in me. I feel the heart coherence shifting in me, because now I'm not looking at something as if, oh, that can't be done. I'm looking at it with different eyes and different intention. And I'm looking at it saying, oh, well, that's an area of growth. I've never tried that, but I'm eager to do so. Well, that's not something I know anything about, but I love to learn about it. What? Like that little bit just opened my entire world. And I had to be on myself, though. I had to be on it consistently, every day, all the time. There were times that I would go to say something and I'm like, okay, hold on, I can't say that. I have to figure out ways to say it. Yes, and then I have to stop. Yes. Yeah. And then rethink of, okay, how do I say this? Okay, how do I? And that was during the training of the renewing of my mind, the training of my thoughts, the renewing of those things. I don't have those thoughts readily anymore. Like things will show up, yes, right? But nowhere near as consistent as it was all the time, every day.
Beautiful.
But because I wasn't aware of it, it just was happening all the time. It was like I took a magnifying glass and put it over the verbiage that was in my brain, and thoughts become things, and that was manifesting in my life. You're right, I didn't book that job. You're right, I didn't get this one. You're right, I didn't get that movie. And all these different things because, well, I'm saying it. But my heart is like, well, no, I really want it, but my words are going against what I really wanted. Right. So that's those are the things that I had to change, that I had to learn about myself to get me in a space to be the better version of me.
It's so beautiful. And you're absolutely right. The evidence is there for us wherever we look for it, right? So if we look for the evidence, we don't get the job, then we will not get the job. The evidence will certainly be there for us. And if we look
that's so good.
Yeah, the evidence of I want to be surrounded by like-minded people. I want constant support and affirmation. I want more openings in my life. I want more miracles in my life. If we look for that evidence, then that evidence will also certainly be there, right? So wherever we look for that evidence, it is available to you, right? That's so our power of choice in all of it. So Taja and I met because she had on her heart that she was looking to share a story. And I would love for you to talk a little bit, because I don't want to take anything away from this, right? I don't want this to be my words, because they are certainly yours and they are powerful. I feel absolutely honored that I have a very small part in bringing this story out in a bigger way. But I would love for you to tell a little bit about what was the pull, what was the calling perhaps that got you to a point where you said, I want to share this story that led us to our first conversation.
Absolutely. Well, in my self-discovery journey, it led me to realize that I did not have enough self-love. And I thought I did. And I really thought I did. But as things, what I like to say, show up for me. And what I mean by that is, as certain things will pop up in my mind, or certain feelings will show up, and things that I haven't felt in a long time, I'm like, oh, I felt like I dealt with this. I felt like I dealt with that. And I realized I hadn't. But growing up in Louisiana, during the time that I was there, we dealt with a lot of colorism, right? I grew up in a time where there's a brown paper bag test. And the brown paper bag test gives more privilege to people that are lighter skinned, because you are lighter than a brown paper bag, and less privilege to darker skin because you're darker. When I say that, I mean you're treated differently in social and economic situations. Certain clubs and things you can join and maybe cannot join because you're darker or lighter than this brown paper bag. So I grew up as a kid in this world, and this is the very normalcy of my life. Down the street, I couldn't play with certain kids. I couldn't go in their homes because I was darker than a brown paper bag. I couldn't, definitely couldn't date anyone and go in somebody's house, because that was like a no-no. And this lasted my whole life, all the way through college, when I was, assigned this girl I was supposed to do a project with. And she was like, well, you can't come over after 6. My dad will be there. And, he doesn't really like dark people in his house. And I remember being in college. What? I'm in college. It's still going on. It's real life. Well, during that time when I was a young girl and I was a young kid, I would get teased all the time and bullied all the time, because you black this, you black that, you jigaboo, you tar baby, you all these different names, right? That would just tear me down. So I would get it when I go to school. I'd get it from my sister at home. And, these are kids teasing you, right? But the worst of it all was from an aunt of mine. She would call me ew. Like, imagine when you see something that's disgusting and you're like, ew. And she would say it like that, and she would react in that way. She would, it's almost like clutching her pearls and moving away from you. It's like, ew. She would call me ew and ugly thing. To this day, I don't even know a time she's called me Taja. It's always been, ew, come here, ew. Or ugly thing, come here. I want you to get this thing for me. I can remember a time where I'm staying at my grandmother's house. She lived in the same city as my grandmother. And my grandmother had this really long driveway. And so every time she'd pull in, she'd be blowing her horn and everybody would run out to greet her. And I remember I wanted to be one of the first ones to greet her, because she was coming in a good mood, and I wanted to get a hug. And I was hoping today would be the day that she'd hug me back and show love and all of this. And she would always just be very dismissive and be like, move, ugly thing, get over there. But my sister was very light-skinned. She had light brown hair at the time. And she called her my albino baby because she was light. And so she loved her more because she's light-skinned, and not me because I was dark-skinned. And I remember sitting at that time, she pulled up in the driveway. I ran out there, I hugged her. She shunned me away, and she's sitting there hugging my sister. And I just looked at them, and then I looked at me, and I looked at them. And I went later that day, and I was in the tub. And I would sit in the tub, Kate, and I would pray to God as this young girl for him to make me lighter. But even in the prayer, I was so earnest, and I just really felt like, if you could just make me just a little bit lighter, like not even too much, but like the color in between your knuckles, because the color in between my knuckles are a little bit lighter than my actual knuckles. That way it's not that drastic and people don't really notice, but yet I feel like this will stop a lot of the bullying, and then my aunt will love me. And that was my earnest prayer for years. I'd have this prayer. So that stayed with me forever, because I went from that young girl dealing with that from school, from home, from family members. And I would see her at family gatherings. Like, we didn't live in the same city, so it was maybe 3 or 4 times a year, right? So then I'd see her and I'd be crying and going through all of that. And then my mom would, try to get her off of me, to have her leave me alone. And then I wouldn't see her for a few months, and then I'd be good, I'd be better. And then I'd see her all over again. So it was like this never ending cycle of that type of verbal abuse. So then that led to junior high school, and I'm still dealing with bullying. And my mom noticed at that time, oh, wow, it's really showing up in such a way that my self-esteem is like under my shoe at this point. And so my mom started teaching me comebacks. And so I would come home and tell her about the bullying, what all the things the kids are saying and how it's making me feel. And she was like, well, when they call you black this or black that, you just say, I'm black, but I'm beautiful. I'm black. Yep, whatever. I'm black and I'm beautiful. And I was like, yeah, but nobody's going to believe that. She was like, if you believe it, they will believe it. Wow. And make sure whenever you say it with confidence and you believe that. And I'm like, it's not going to work. And she's like, well, just try it. I go to school next time and I feel like, okay, I'm going to say this thing. I'm going to do it. And I know they're going to come at me. So sure enough, go to recess. There it is. It's happening. It's happening. And I sat there and I remember feeling all this anxiety on me. And I was just like, I'm black, but I'm beautiful. Like, just threw it out there. And they're like, what, girl, please, you ain't nobody to be a girl. You're black. You're too black to be beautiful. You know, all these things. And that's the only thing I had to say. So I just kept saying that on repeat. I'm black, I'm beautiful, whatever. And I just kept saying it, yeah, whatever. And I was just making it seem like it didn't bother me. Over time, the bullying stopped. That, even though I was saying those words, I didn't quite believe those words yet. But it started to build my confidence a little bit, because now if I act as if this is okay, act as if that I'm okay in this, then I'll be all right. Then it's like, oh, okay. So if I do this and that works, okay. So I believe now in hindsight, Kate, that's when all of the compartmentalizing started for me, because I'm acting as if, right? Which is so interesting in this moment. This is hitting me right now. I was living under this facade of I'm okay because I was acting as if, and I'm an actor. Jesus. It's just crazy. That just hit me right now. Wow. So that went on from junior high school. I remember being at my best friend's house and we have a big gathering, big girls' night. And I go to the back to get something out of the bedroom, out of my bag. And one of my friend's sister's friend comes in. I know her, but we're not like really close. And she says to me, hey, are you okay? Is everything all right? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. And she was like, I was like, why? She goes, well, because you're like the only dark-skinned person in the room. So I just didn't know if you were feeling like weird. And I don't know, I just wanted to make sure you're okay. And I was just like, I was stuck in that moment because I didn't recognize that I was the only dark-skinned person in the room. But thank you for bringing it up. But I'm okay, thank you. And I remember at that moment, because now I'm in a safe space, I'm in my best friend's house. I don't have to feel guarded or a certain way at my best friend's house, right? We grew up together. But that moment sticks out for me so much because that was the beginning of me now being more aware of what everyone else is seeing in the world. So now when I go places, I'm like, ooh, I'm the only dark-skinned person in the room. Because in my brain, I'm like, everyone else is noticing it. So I definitely should notice it too. Because people are coming to me randomly saying, are you okay? Because you're the only speck in this room. That's like, what? That was just crazy to me. But it made me more aware. It was like, wow, I'm sitting here living this life as if everything's okay, but people are feeling away because I'm in the room. I would have never known that. I get to, as I'm dating different, people along the way in high school and college, and everyone that's from the South, because I'm in the South, went to school in the South, graduated college in the South. So anytime I dated someone, they would always say, wow, you're the only dark-skinned girl I've ever dated. You're the first dark-skinned girl I've ever dated. And man, wow. I always said, though, if I dated a dark-skinned girl, she had to be bad, though. She had to be cold. So, okay. I'm cool. Man, I was telling my friends about you the other day. I was like, yo, and she's dark-skinned. And I'm like, and I'm listening to this like, wow, this is still very prevalent. Or, wow, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl. What does that even mean? That doesn't even really feel like a compliment because it feels like a backhanded compliment. It's like, well, you're a dark-skinned girl, but you're pretty, but you're dark. So I lived in this world, in this environment around me where here it is, I'm growing up as a kid in the skin that I'm in. I'm praying to God to be lighter because I feel like that will fix everything. I have, family, friends. I have people around me that I know and don't know, all making me very aware that I'm dark skinned from elementary school to junior high to high school, all the way to college. It wasn't until I moved from the South that I started meeting people who were from like the Midwest or from the East Coast. And these were like proud Black people. These were people that were proud to be in the skin that they're in. And I'd never met darker skinned women and darker skinned men who were proud to be that shade of Black in my life. It wasn't until I was in my 20s and I graduated college that my first time meeting these kind of people, because I grew up in the South. So in the South, it's like, even dating people is like, well, you know, I'll tell my mom you dark skinned, but it's cool. We're not like that. You can come in our house. That's insane, right? But that's real life. That's what I experienced. So I realized through all of that, I was living under this facade of I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I compartmentalized a lot of things in my life, but what I didn't do was deal with the issues. I didn't deal with the belief in myself. I didn't deal with all the things that people were telling me that I believed about me. I never quite dealt with them. I changed my language around it, but I still hadn't dealt with the feelings and the energy of how I still felt about myself. I would run away from the sun. I didn't want to be in the sun too long because I'm in the sun too long. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get too dark. I didn't want to go to the beach because the beach is like open space of just sun. I can't get any shade. Like these things would pop up in my mind. And when I would realize like, oh, wow, this is still a thing for me. Okay, I gotta deal with that. Okay, I haven't had this feeling in a while, but I hadn't gone to the beach either. Oh, that's why I haven't been going to the beach. Wow. So all these things that are showing up for me, that's what made me be like, okay, I'm now realizing I never really dealt with that stuff from the girl that sat in the tub to the woman you see now. Because now it was still showing up for me in various ways, not as frequently, but it was still here. Because I feel like I'd done a lot of work on myself, but what I had not done enough work on was the self-love, was the self-empowerment, was the self-belief. Mm-hmm. My belief didn't match the words I was saying. I'm Black, but beautiful. I didn't believe that. Mm. I now know, yes, my words are my wands. I now know in order for that thing to manifest in your life, it's the intention you put behind it. It's the belief you put behind it. That vibration of that belief precedes the manifestation. Before that thing will show up, you got to believe it. I always say you got to know like you know your name. If you don't know it like that, it's not coming. If you're looking at your life right now, like I've been trying to manifest these things and it's not here because there's a disconnect. There's something you have to do to get yourself in a state of belief and then let it go. It can't be the energy of, but I want to feel, nope, no, you're not letting it go. So once I learned all of that about myself, then I had to dissect into that. Then I got my rose quartz that I wear around my neck on a very regular basis when I'm not filming. Then I'm making sure that I'm doing the work every single day to get me in a space. Because I still have moments that things will come up in my mind where I have to work through, but it's nothing like it was when I was growing up. It is way more sporadic now. So I'm not perfect, but I do put the work in. I do make sure when the thoughts come up, no matter what it is, I counter it with at least 5 positive thoughts to get it out, because I got to change the shift, the energy and the vibration around it. Because I learned when we allow ourselves to say that one negative thought, that second negative thought, that third negative thought, it's like a domino effect. It's like you've gone all the way down the hill with all these negative thoughts. But then to get back to where you were, it's like picking up each domino. You know how long that takes? It's like climbing that mountain back up to get back to where you started. You know how long that takes? You've already done the work. So don't allow yourself to go back down. Stay where you are. It's not that the thoughts won't come. They will come. And when they do, you have to stop them. You have to dead them in that moment. And so I counted them with at least 5, sometimes 10 thoughts to shift the energy. So it's almost like you're climbing this mountain and then you step and you feel your foot fall. What are you going to do? Are you going to panic? You can't panic in that moment. You have to stop. You have to breathe. You have to regroup yourself and then be able to keep going. But when that foot falls off the mountain, if you panic, you're going all the way back down to the bottom. And what happens when you do that? You got to climb it all the way back up. That's the power of the thoughts. Wow. So I had to control that. Now that I had that under control, I call myself a master manifester.
And you are. And Taja, every single time I hear your story, it is so deeply emotional. I'm sure there is not a dry eye out there right now, especially those hearing this for the first time. And I find it even now, having you and I obviously spoken several times prior to this, finding myself really, gathering my emotion to kind of stay here with you in this moment. It is um, devastating at parts to hear the experience of childhood thoughts, and the just cruelty, honestly, that that you experienced, at different points in your life. But I have my own kind of thought process of why you want to share this story, but I'd love to hear it from you first. And really wanting to honor your words in this, and really wanting to honor, why you want to bring this out. But talk to me a little bit about why it was so important for you to share this story
Because I was very ashamed. I was very ashamed. I took on the burden of, well, this is my fault. This has happened to me because of what I look like. This is my fault. And I was ashamed to speak about it because I wasn't ready to deal with the aftermath of it. I wasn't ready to deal with the things people may say, like, oh my God, where were your parents? And I wanted to cover them completely because I understand and know that it's like watching a movie and that was the time. Well, that was the time, that was the mine just happened to be the one that degraded me to the point where it made me feel less than. But everyone had, kind of different little nicknames here and there. I spoke a little bit about this on a televised interview, and my father saw it. Now, I grew up with loving parents. They're still together. They're my biggest supporters. They love me completely. I talk to them all the time. But once I realized that this was stifling my voice, I could no longer allow that to do that to me anymore. My dad saw this interview and he called me and he said, I did not realize how much that affected you until I saw your interview. And I'm sorry that I did not protect you better as a father. I feel like I failed you and I'm very sorry. When my aunt would come over, she and my dad didn't really get along. They both were, keeping the peace, for her for the sake of her sister, him for the sake of his wife. And so when she would come over, they would greet, hey, okay, all right, yeah. My dad would just kind of go to the back, like, oh, I'm gonna let the girls do their thing. And that's fine. But oftentimes he wasn't there, or he's not in the room where a lot of this stuff is taking place. Now he's definitely been around her to call me these ugly things and stuff like that. And they would get on her to stop and she wouldn't really stop. And, and then I would cry and then I would make her do it even more. Like a true bully, they're attracted to fear, And so I never really knew why she just did not like me. I'd be like, why? I don't understand. But it was the moment that my father called me and gave me the apology that I did not realize I needed from him. That, I don't know, something about that gave me more courage. It gave me a little bit of my voice back. It made me feel like, all right, I can talk about this. Okay. I was so ashamed of it. I never wanted to let anyone, know all the things I had been through because and then my background was also in pageants. I won a bunch of pageants, and, in pageantry, everything that you present is perfect, So all of this facade that I was living in that I hadn't, and so I just kept pushing all the negative things about myself that was said to me that I believed down. I just kept pushing it down, but it never went anywhere. And so sometimes it would show its head. And then I would try to mask it and get over it. But it's just so interesting in this moment. I swear to you, it happened to me right now. It's always when I talk to you, Kate Butler I. But But it's in this moment that I'm like, you know, when I was a kid, I would play make believe. I played pretend, you know, it wasn't anything major. It was just something that I did. And interesting enough, I'm great at it. Like, I'm great. But that you know, in hindsight, I know now is jumping into someone else's shoes and living in someone else's life as this actor allowed me to get out of my own world and live in their world and live in their issues and their whatever. So this is make believe, but this is, you know, as an actor, you have to live in this is real. This is their truth. You have to tell their truth. You breathe life into the words on the page. That's your job. And so now when I look at myself, my body of work, and I'm like, wow, I remember where I was in my personal life at that time and why that particular booking was a release.
Yeah.
That particular booking was a breakthrough. That particular booking was, you know what I mean, was something else that showed up in my personal life. And interesting enough, out of all the things I've booked, they've all come at a time and they've all helped me in a way. So every character that I've stepped foot in, every shoes that I filled has come at a time where it allowed me to deal with something that happened to me.
Yeah.
I'd be on the phone with my acting coach like, wow, I didn't even know that was still an issue for me. But now that I'm opening this box, all these things are showing up. And then I'm like, okay, great, let's deal with it. But I was ready now because I was stronger. I used to say, when I can tell the story without crying, that's when I can share it. Because I used to tell the story maybe 4 or 5 people, you know, here and there throughout the years individually, and I couldn't get through it. I couldn't talk. I couldn't, because I was like, wow, this is really still bringing up me being the little brown girl sitting in the tub praying to God, you know, and and because I kept pushing it down, I wasn't dealing with it. So then I was like, well, you gotta deal with this thing. And so now I was ready to deal with it. I was ready to face it. I was ready to get through it and get over it. And so now I can speak about it. And so now that's what makes me really excited about being a part of the Women Who Shine book, because my mom's always called me her chocolate star. And I didn't even believe that as a kid, but now I feel like I'm shining because I've been able to get all of that off of me that helped stifle my growth, stifle my star. And I no longer dumb myself down for anyone.
Yes.
When I used to do that all the time.
Yeah. Wow.
Thanks, Kate Butler.
I know. I'm trying to get through this. I have to share with you that the last time we spoke, and I remember saying the exact same thing to you because I was, you know, we were doing different work on that call, and I was saying, I just, my gosh, like I'm trying to get through this, and I walked out of my office. It was the last call that I had that day. And I went into the kitchen and my 2 girls were sitting at the counter eating, and I shared your story with them. Mm-hmm. And I shared the story, and I was sharing about you being a little girl and wanting to play. And I talked about the brown paper bag, and they both just started crying. And I just want you to know that, you know, what this is doing generationally, right? Mm-hmm. You know, just changing the story and changing the fabric that we weave every single day, you know? Mm-hmm. And all the homes that this book goes into, my prayer is that it does the exact same thing, and whether it's a conversation, whether it's an awareness. My older daughter had no words, which is hard to believe. She just started crying. And my younger daughter, who's 8 years old, said, Mommy, why? That is so cruel. That is so cruel. And I just am so grateful that you're bringing so much awareness, so much honesty. This is not to be stuffed down. I didn't want to stuff it down after I heard you share that story. I wanted it to have a head, and I wanted it to be spoken, and I wanted it to be seen, and I wanted it to be a part of the conversation, because what you're talking about is awarenesses, right? And you're talking about openings, and you're talking about healing, right? And what you're doing through sharing this on so many levels, right? Is that you are opening all of this space for people to do that through all of the stories that you're sharing. That's just one of them. through all of the stories that you are sharing. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're obviously so grateful to have you a part of Women in Time and to share this, but in this platform as well, because it's one thing to write it and it's another thing to really share it where people can really hear you in the space that you were in and really feel into those moments. I think that that's really where it begins to shift for people, and that connection of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so
That's real. Healing comes with speaking. You have to speak it. And I didn't want to speak it, so I never quite healed. Now that I'm speaking about it, now that I'm open to talking about it, it's like I feel it's like it's having a scab. I feel it healing now. Now it's healing. Now it's healing. Now maybe a scar there. I can look at the scar and be like, yeah, but you know what? You healed, you're stronger, you're better because of it. But it took me to get to a space to be okay with speaking about it. So I'm no longer ashamed. You know, I was for a long time, like up until 5 years ago. Like that just shifted. I was for a long time, but now I'm good and I'm ready, and I'm very grateful for you. When I had that conversation with you and I shared it with you, which was interesting. I did not know I was going to say that to you. I had a completely different story ready for the chapter in the book.
Yeah.
And you were like, so I just want to say, hey, whatever comes to mind, just dump it on me. Just feel free to dump it on me. And, you know, whatever you want to say, it may make it into the book, it may not, but just, you know, just dump it all out. Even if whatever you have prepared, if something else shows up, just say it. And then boom, that showed up. And I was like, oh, right now? I'm like, I'm looking at you like, okay, yeah. But on the inside, I'm like, what? Are you gonna do it right now? Oh my God, we didn't think about this. Are you sure? What? Like I'm all over the place. And then I was like, yeah, right now. And then I just started telling you. And your reaction to me gave me so much more comfort, made me feel empowered, made me, and then your perspective, when you put it all together, I didn't even realize, you know, how we were able to structure the story. That is what was so mind-blowing for me. And I'm so excited to be a part of this series. I'm so excited to share this story. I'm so excited to get it out into the world. And I believe, and my hope is that it helps so many different people, whether it's understanding or whether it's little brown girls who look like me.
Absolutely.
From the complete spectrum. So I thank you for that, because you have helped me so much in this journey. And I'm so grateful.
What I also think is extraordinary is that your gift was also your shield, right? Like,
that's good. Wow.
You know, you had these moments of in and out of this acting, or this acting as if, or this playing a part, or this, you know, make believe. Even that was your favorite game growing up. You mentioned that earlier in the interview, right? And this was your gift coming out when you were just a baby. You were a child.
Yeah.
You had no idea that then your gift was given to you. So it could start to protect you a little bit. It could start to be your shield in some way. It gave you just enough room in some of those moments to survive, let's be honest. It gave you just enough room in some of those moments to get a little bit further, just enough so you could take a step, right? Just enough so you could get into that next place, right? That then allowed you, you know, into growth moments, or, you know, into awarenesses, right? But it was like this protection around you. And then it obviously led to you being able to actually, you stand here before us today, and you are fulfilling your dream. Like, you are doing it right now in this moment, you know. But it's beautiful how God had given that to you, right? Like that gift of this acting, and you connecting into that so that it could be that shield and that protector for you along the way when you needed it the most. How beautiful it is. I love that. I love that.
God. It's your perspective, I swear. I'll be like, yes.
That's what I heard from you as you were sharing that. You know, that's what I was hearing. And I think that's important for everyone to hear out there, right? That we are given these gifts, and if we can just lean into them and honor them, you know, they really are given to us for a reason. And because you did honor them and leaned into it along the way, you are where you are, along with all the other beautiful pearls of wisdom that you are sharing with us today. So I would love for you to share with us where people can find out more about you. How can they learn, like get into your world and just connect with you and follow with you? Tell us more about that.
Yes, absolutely. So I am an Instagrammer.
Love it.
Instagrammer. I'm on all social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. But everything is at Taja V Simpson, Tajav Simpson. But the main place, I check all the messages, even the message requests. I get a bunch of those. I try to go through them. So Instagram, hit me up on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you.
I love it. I love it. So Instagram, we'll put everything in the notes section so you'll be able to click and follow Taja. And so this is the way we can follow where you are, what you're doing. We can check you out on the big screen and follow all of the amazing things that happen, for you as they continue to unfold. I'm so excited for this story to get into the hands of so many beautiful girls, so many women out there in the world. I am so excited for people to hear your game-changing moments, because every time I speak with you, I have new awarenesses along the way, and I know so many others will as well. It is beautiful that you are fulfilling your gift of being an actor and really being so successful at that. But there is this other part of you, my friend, that is literally out there changing the world through your words. And I am so grateful for you. Thank you for being you. And thank you for showing up fully in who you are, because you've changed my life and I know you will change so many others. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And until next time, everyone, we will see you soon. Have a happy and magical day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening today. I would love to connect with you on social, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Kate Butler Books. If you're interested in accessing some life-changing tools and techniques, you can grab those right off of the homepage of my website for free, and that is katebutlerbooks.com. And you can always check back here to download new episodes from our podcast right here where you listen today. Until next time, thank you for making this world a better place just by being you.